Good day and welcome to our podcast from Grand Thornton, Uganda. My name is Lawrence Namale. In the episode today, we are discussing something that doesn't appear on the balance sheet, yet has the power to determine whether strategy succeeds or fails. That is organizational culture. Now, culture is often described as how things are done around here. But in reality, it is far much more than that. It is the invisible operating system of an organization that shapes the decision-making, accountability, risk appetite, collaboration, innovation, and ultimately everything about performance. Many organizations invest heavily in strategic development. They refine their business plans, they restructure operations, they redesign their processes. Yet despite of all of those efforts, execution normally falters. The question is, why? Often, the answer lies in the cultural misalignment, that gap between what leaders are saying that they value and what the organization actually rewards and practices. A company may claim to value teamwork but rewards individual competition. It may speak about integrity but tolerate shortcuts. It may promote employee well-being but incentivize burnout. So over time, employees learn which signals to follow, which signals are real, and which ones are basically symbolic, all word and all talk, but no action. Therefore, in this episode, we will explore what culture truly means in the context of business. We'll explore the risks organizations face when culture is left unmanaged. We'll also explore what cultural misalignment looks like in practice, why culture audits are becoming essential governance tools, and at the end of the day, how organizations can intentionally design and sustain a preferred culture. The key word there is a preferred culture. So this conversation is essentially a very relevant conversation for board members, CEOs, HR leaders, and executives responsible for strategy execution and risk management. The reality on the ground is this: a great strategy with a misaligned culture is equal to a failed strategy. It goes without saying. So let us explore why. And I am glad that today in the podcast, I'm joined with Dr. Lillian Businge from Grand Thornton, Uganda, who is working with the human capital development. She has over 10 years experience in human capital development and matters to do with culture transformation across different sectors. So, Dr. Lillian, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Lawrence. Nice to be here.
Yeah, and I just needed us to demystify this whole idea of culture.
Yeah.
And I think the best place to start with is, what is culture?
Culture is the shared beliefs within an organization, the values that organizations follow, and basically the behaviors that guide daily decisions within an organization.
You know, there's this common saying that culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah.
That makes me to ask, why is culture such an important aspect of an organization? Why is it important?
Look at it this way. Within an organization, there is that silent force that drives the organizational growth and performance. It's nothing else but culture. If your growth is to speak, we look at what your culture is. If we want to see your performance or even understand why your performance is as is, culture is usually that force that has brought it to its level. So someone can easily tell why the culture is good, why the performance is good, or why it isn't, depending on the lifestyle within the organization. So culture shapes the client service. It shapes your collaboration, the risk management within the organization, and basically it helps with response to your challenges. Yes.
Good.
So a strong aligned culture, I would say, attracts talent,
Yeah.
improves retention, and enables strategy execution within the organization. And as research says, it is from McKinsey, it shows that strong cultures correlate with 30% higher employee engagement. So where the culture is strong, you expect that the employee engagement is also equally strong. Yes.
Good one. And if we're looking at it from that particular angle, there could be risks, right? There could be risks that are there if organizations, because from what you've just shared, it looks to me as if everything the organization does is determined by the culture that they have formed. So the question I would want to know is, if they do not intentionally decide this is the culture that we want, what would be the risks involved there?
Let me tell you this, Lawrence. If culture is not intentionally shaped, it becomes an unmanageable risk.
Yeah.
You have no grip on it. So culture will still form, but then what drives it? At that point, it's driven by informal behaviors and dominant personalities. He who thinks can lead will actually lead. Whether they are leading you in the right direction or wrong
not.
direction, they will lead the others. So that kind of misalignment, it will lead to unclear expectations and inconsistent decision making. It also creates silos and uneven leadership behaviors across the teams. So you'll find that with time, employees learn that informal norms actually override the stated values. Yes.
Okay, and you've talked quite a bit, a very big keyword here. It comes out as culture misalignment, and I'm looking at it maybe from the angle of you have this direction you want to go, but the underlying culture is pulling you on the other side.
Yes.
So let's talk about this culture misalignment for a minute.
Basically, that is the gap between what you have laid up as your strategic values and then the daily realities within your organization.
Yeah.
That missing link between the two is the misalignment. Why? You have stated values. Teamwork is your value. However, while you are executing, nothing shows teamwork. You reward individual efforts. You actually promote competition. But you've said our culture should be based on teamwork. Why then promote competition among your employees? You get that? So in that case, misalignment occurs when strategy and messaging systems are contradictory. When they contradict with the leadership behavior, then we can say that, yes, there is a culture misalignment. Another example where an organization actually promotes or speaks of employee well-being as part of their culture, as an aspect that should drive culture. But then this very organization ends up rewarding employees who stay at office late, ends up rewarding, giving overtime. With this, we are seeing the misalignment between what we spoke as employee well-being and the actual actions on ground, which are overtime, extra work, and all that comes with it. So with time, as this grows, you'll find that your own employees will quickly realize and see the differences.
Yeah.
What is said versus what is
rewarded.
actually rewarded. Yeah.
And so they follow what is rewarded more than what has been declared as the culture of the day.
Very right, because this actually erodes the trust in the leadership credibility within the organization. Yes.
But just like you've been sharing, what could be the causes of this culture misalignment in these organizations?
The causes of culture misalignment, let's start with what we all like. We would want to grow.
Yeah.
Okay? But where an organization grows at a very fast rate, where the change happens much faster than what we can handle or adapt to, then culture misalignment is bound to happen. I've looked at let's say, if we refer to Uber in the earlier days of Uber, there was a target just to say that, if I put it in simpler words, may the best man win.
Yeah.
So he who brought the best skill,
Numbers.
he who brought the largest numbers would be winning in that case. And Uber actually started growing. The profits were coming in. However, distortions happened within the organization. We've heard of issues of abuse in the same case. We've heard of other aspects that came in that actually put the business down. So while the organization was growing so fast, they could not put a grip on other values that would help the employees hold up or adapt to the changing environment. So also you would find that leadership transitions can also cause
A new leader comes in.
Yes, a new leader comes in with new ideas, different values from wherever they are coming to this space. And I think it's human to assume that, as much as if you have accepted me in here, then you believe I have something to add, right? So as a human being, as the new leader, I would not want to settle for, let me say, less what I have just found on ground.
Yeah.
I want to bring in something
want to be
new,
known,
something
to be
that will
marked.
create the change. So if I do that as a new leader, that kind of transition may water down some of the values that I have found on ground, and the shift that employees have to make from the values they are used to, that they know very well, and to the kind of values or even ideas at a certain point that I have within my head, within my way of working, they will have to adopt. So that would also cause a misalignment. Other things like mergers and strategic shifts can also cause culture misalignment.
Good
Yes.
one. So now someone will be asking how, now that they have understood there could be a misalignment, and it's a very big issue in organizations, misalignment with culture. You want to go this way, the strategy goes this way, but the culture goes the other way, causing a misalignment. But someone might want to know, how do I address the misalignment? How do we deal with misalignment that is already existing in the organization?
Okay, just start by uncovering the real lived culture, not the intended one. What is it that we are living as culture? What is on ground? What is it that we are doing? You have certain intentions, but are you looking at what is happening? Maybe you just need to polish what you have on ground, or even see how to incorporate, but not just do away what is done and bring on board the intended kind of culture. That would help address. You can also identify everyday behaviors, decision patterns, and informal power dynamics that are shaping outcomes. What are the kind of patterns that we have in a way we make our decisions? Do we just wake up and decide on something new, put away what we've been following, or we have certain procedures that govern our processes? If you look at those, you could be able to address it. Then also conduct a structured culture audit. I would actually encourage every organization to conduct a structured culture audit.
At short intervals.
You could do it within every 3 years, annually, if you have lots of changing. Some businesses are changing every now and then. Strategies changing, you have different growth. But by the time you do your midterm reviews for your strategies, do a test and check for your on your culture. You could do this through simple surveys. You could have interviews with your employees. You could have focused group discussions. Do a systems analysis. That could also help you check.
It gives you a report of what is on the ground.
Yes, thank you. So also produce a comprehensive report. After you've done your survey, after you've engaged your employees, could you come up with a report that shows the objectives way of doing this audit? It would also show you what you tested and tried. What is it that you checked while you were engaging the employees? What are the results? What is your analysis like? and then give recommendations. Probably it would require that you do maybe a culture transformation exercise,
Yeah.
whatever it would take. But if you have the report in an organized manner, a comprehensive report giving you all this detail, you can be able to touch upon the gaps that within your organization, and also probably the cultural risks that you could be facing. So this particular report could help provide leadership direction,
Yeah.
and also as much evidence as possible. You'll have evidence-based insights and not just assumptions. So anyone that can get to your report can understand what it is that you have found while doing your audit. Yes.
And you gave a good example of Uber, where it is possible for organizations to continue doing what they're doing because results are coming in.
Yes.
Even though the culture that is existing could be, fighting, it could be a toxic culture and so on and so forth.
Very true.
What will be the business risks if any organization decides to ignore the culture misalignment that is already existing?
I would say, being that culture misalignment is a direct risk itself, it's that direct risk to your performance, to your reputation. You look at it as number one. The moment you realize that certain things are misaligned within your culture, it is already risky.
Right.
If we spoke of it outside,
Yeah.
it waters down your organizational name. It waters down your
The
reputation.
brand.
It could also, you find that employees follow informal norms when values contradict daily practices. They will do according to what they think is right. That is when even corruption becomes a much bigger problem. That is when harassment becomes an issue within your organization.
Yeah.
Anything toxic can be brought in because every informality has been introduced into your culture. It also increases risk of ethical breaches and inconsistent decision making. So you'll find that it also leads to uneven client experience and weakened accountability. No one gives accountability. Or perhaps if we give accountability, it's not what exactly we require, but we give the accountability according to what we think will help us or favor us as employees or stakeholders even. Could be your other internal or external stakeholders within the organization. So it will drive higher turnover for the organization and even increase operational inefficiencies as time goes on. So you'll find that research shows that 25% of integration failures stem from culture misalignment.
Wow.
So if we have to have a strong alignment, it will then be evident with the kind of productivity levels that we have, because a strong alignment correlates with higher productivity and then lower turnover. Yes.
Is there any story or any example as far as that is concerned?
If I would think of one offhand, Wells Fargo, while the bank publicly emphasized customer trust and ethics, its internal culture strongly rewarded aggressive sales targets without sufficient behavioral guardrails.
Numbers.
Then internally, employees felt intense pressure to meet unrealistic goals, leading to fear, stress, and unethical practices such as opening unauthorized accounts. Yeah.
Now, as far as this is concerned, because we have already seen that culture is critical, misalignment is a risk. What can organizations do to install their preferred culture, the one that is going to drive the strategy that they want?
So installing a preferred culture really requires a deliberate, structured process, just not slogans, not just the speeches or boards that you will put within different corridors. So you must be deliberate, determined to do something different. Begin by understanding your current behaviors and real decision-making patterns. Then clearly define your target behaviors aligned to your strategic priorities. You can align your performance systems, rewards, and processes to reinforce the desired norms. Look at what you desire. Where is it that you want to go? How do you, just like we said, that culture will actually influence your organizational performance. So if you want to really perform as an organization, how are you aligning your systems? What are your rewards? What is going to come through? What is it that you think is your desired norm, and how are you going to achieve it? Then leadership must consistently model expected behavior.
Yeah.
Don't just let informal kind of behavior pass you by. Don't let undesired culture pass you by in the corridors, in your offices, in a meeting. It could just be an example of, just as we are here discussing, having a meeting with you, and imagine I am your subordinate, you're my supervisor, but as we are discussing, something just goes wrong and I start hitting the table. You can let your eye miss it once. If I do it the same again tomorrow, just don't let it slip. So you must be, as leadership, you must be aware of the expected
top.
or unexpected behaviors. Let there be a certain tone that this is what we must follow. This is what our organization so desires. These are our norms, and don't let some of those small things just slip in, going unaware.
Yeah.
So you also track progress and correct deviations over time. Treat culture as an organizational operating system, not a communication exercise. You communicate this and go away, communicate that and go away. Nothing ever happens. So let it be something that is operational. Let it work. Talk of teamwork, make sure the teamwork aspect works. Talk of going beyond, make sure you're doing something different to go beyond the usual. Talk of leadership, let the leadership teams show
seen.
that it is, yes,
Yeah.
let it be seen. Don't just talk about it and leave it there. It should be evident. So use a comprehensive culture audit report as a baseline diagnostic to clearly identify alignment gaps, behavior risks, and priority intervention areas before launching transformation initiatives. Yeah.
It seems to me as if this has got to be intentional. And of course, it tells me that it takes time, isn't it?
Yes,
it takes
yes.
time to do. First of all, you've done the audit, the culture audit, and it shows you that this is what is on the ground, like you said earlier. And then now you want to install a preferred culture that aligns with the strategy that you want to set. Remember, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So it has to take time, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
How much time, if someone would ask, how much time would I take in my organization to install a new preferred culture?
Then that gives me an idea. While you do your culture audit, we've talked of having a culture audit report, which will have different aspects, the objectives, the recommendations. You use that as a roadmap, which will lead you into your culture transformation exercise. So this culture transformation is not just a quick fix that we'll do it in 2 weeks and get rolling.
Put some slogans here and there, values
and
on the walls, and
have
so
it
on.
done. You have a strategy in place. You have your culture audit done. You've identified the gaps. So it would typically take you at least 1 year or even up to 5 years to fully embed a culture that you want to last long for your organization, a culture that you will depend on as an organization, a culture that you will grow with, and then it will start speaking your own name. If somebody spoke of that, if somebody spoke of your organization, they would know this is how the organization behaves. This is how they do things. This is how they treat their clients.
Because they have intentionally set out to do that.
Yes.
Now you can imagine the flip side. If those 5 years you've talked about, there is no intentionality in the culture that they want. Of course, you've already shared that it is just going to come up with a culture of its own, and it's going to be in the negatives.
Of course, the organization would fail in one way or the other.
Eventually.
Or else you look at starting over again to do restructures and all that. Yeah.
So if an organization is to do a culture transformation, this exercise that you've just taught us that can take up to 1 year or even up to 5 years, there are two ways that they can do this. They could do it internally, or they could do it with an external hand helping them. What would be the advantages of either?
Let us look at the internal bit of it.
Yeah.
So the internal process will allow full alignment with your strategy and your business objectives. Yet also the external bit of it does not fall short of that, because as you liaise with your either suppliers or your consultant, the other stakeholders, you will have to align on that. The internal transformation exercise will help your internal teams, being that the internal teams understand the history of the organization, the informal networks, and the employee dynamics. It will be easy for them to do this internally, because some of those boxes are easily ticked off. They have the feedback to that. They know the gaps, the do's and don'ts are all with them internally. So this would not require any external party to have such detail or information altogether. Interventions are more context specific and practically relevant, because come on, it's an exercise that we're doing internally, it's ours, so we understand each other, whoever is conducting it, and the respondents, all is well. So familiar leadership driving change also increases trust and buy-in, because our leaders are familiar to us. These are the people we work with on a daily basis. So yes, people are quick to buy in and go ahead with the internal process. Yes. However, when we look at the disadvantages of having it internally, we could consider aspects like bias. If you're asking me about my behavior, you're asking me about how I do things, and I'm the one checking, doing the checks and balances, everything would be tick. So the kind of bias will affect the accurate diagnosis of the culture gaps. This would actually require a third party to come in and help you with it. The internal teams may also lack objectivity due to existing relationships, politics, and blind spots. Where I have my friend, I don't want to mention. Sometimes it's not even about a friend, it is about, I fear my boss. How can I start mentioning A, B, C, D about my boss? Certain times, it only takes an expert to see what the blind spots are and pick them out. Then also employees may question the credibility or the transparency of the internally led initiatives. If you're doing this internally, how credible is it? How transparent would you want everyone to be? Because sometimes we know, we've seen in various organizations, and these at times become no more, let me say, norms within organizations, where we hold back on certain information and we are not as transparent as possible. If we are dealing with the day-to-day people, our daily colleagues, our bosses, our supervisors, we may not be that transparent. Research also shows that 70% of transformations fail, often due to resistance and misalignment. So culture transformation is resource intensive and competes with daily operational priorities. You'll find limited...
Maybe I'm not going to be rewarded for spending some time to do it and so on.
And yet you expect a full range report, very comprehensive. I'll do what I can and submit for a quick fix. So you'll find that limited internal expertise can weaken complex interventions. The system redesign, if required, leadership alignment, there's certain things around that we may not want to tackle as the internal parties. So sustaining long-term momentum without external challenge can also be very difficult. With that, I would strongly advise organizations to take on such services from an external independent party or consultant. in like Grant Thornton, of course, in order to maintain objectivity, neutrality,
Professionalism.
confidentiality, yes, and a whole lot, even our psychological safety. Yes.
Right. Okay, that's very comprehensive an answer, and I think the idea of saying that an external party or a service provider might be much more professional, and some of these providers have expertise in it and professionalism in it for a long period of time, and therefore they have experience to specifically intervene in that particular area, other than doing it internally where you are swamped with other things that are competing for your time. Now, if an organization goes ahead and institutes a culture audit and a transformation mechanism, this one that you said might take 1 to 5 years, what will cause their success? What will make this cultural transformation a success?
You know, success requires genuine ownership and commitment.
Yeah.
That should not come from anywhere else before the top leadership. As the low-level, entry-level employees may not have any force to drive that, but the top leadership has a hand in it. So if the top leadership takes up genuine ownership, if they are committed to do it, it
if
will
they
surely
want to do it,
be
they provide the
successful.
resources to do it, they provide
Their
the leeway,
time,
their time.
as part of the major resource.
Yeah.
If you're committed, you will hear it when they speak to other employees.
Yes.
When they give their monthly, weekly, quarterly reports to speak into it, you'll hear it in their tones. So that is very important. Then leaders must also model the change through visible decisions and behaviors. If you want change, can I see a taste of it from your side?
Right.
Can I see your behavior speaking that?
Yeah.
You could be speaking into a desired change, but your actions speak differently. So our actions as leaders should match what we are speaking into. If we want to see change, let us portray the change that we want to be seen. Employees follow actions and priorities, not slogans or speeches. We've given these good speeches about where we want to go, about our direction, about our values. Not bad. We have good strategic plans. If you looked at strategic plans of various organizations, some have awesome designs. You would want it to be in your home. But when it comes to actioning that particular design, what they have put on paper, we don't see the action. So what do we want as employees? Everyone in your organization wants to see action, wants to see you do what you have written, do what you have spoken, do what you tell us in the meetings, and then we shall see the success. So desired culture must be clearly linked to business performance and strategy. As we act it, show the link to our strategy, to our performance. Culture should also should be embedded into daily operations. It shouldn't be treated as a one-off. If it's a one-off initiative, then why struggle? So let it be part of our daily initiatives, our daily operations. When
Maybe
we
even
go
for the life of the organization, because you told us that they need to do a pulse check nearly every 3 years.
Yes.
So it's not a one
no,
big thing.
Some of us do very good exercises. By the way, as we are talking about a culture audit or even culture transformation, there are some organizations that may have concluded it not so long ago. But after concluding the exercise, close the reports, and nothing ever happened. You need to walk it. You need to walk that journey. So this becomes your roadmap. It becomes your direction to see, let us move in this direction. Let us do it. Let it be part of our day-to-day activities, our day-to-day behavior, our day-to-day response to challenges. Yes.
Okay. Is there a story that we can tell of some organization maybe in Uganda that has done such kind of an intervention, and publicly we can be able to see this has transformed them because of their culture audit and culture transformation exercise?
When you talk of that, one organization challenges me, I would say. When I think of our URA, the Uganda Revenue Authority, it provides a clear illustration of culture change. From URA, the employees, I believe, have demanded. The whole Uganda has demanded. You get it? So first with a historically compliance-focused and a bureaucratic culture that some taxpayers have perceived as strict, you know, outside we are demanding. We feel like URA is very strict. They've done this and this.
We're scared of URA.
Some people call URA IFRIS, but we shall talk about that another time. So you find that URA embedded a transformation that emphasized facilitation, integrity, and customer service alongside enforcement. So to sustain this kind of change, the organization integrated the new culture norms into everyday processes. Staff were trained on ethical and service-oriented behaviors. Digital systems such as e-tax, IFRIS, those were introduced to standardize and reinforce compliance-friendly practices. And then performance management is linked to promotions. Oh my God, who wouldn't admire the culture, the kind of culture transformation that the URA has taken up? And you find that they've consistently worked to make it better and better. And that kind of consistency, that kind of adherence is something admirable. Then also by aligning systems, leadership modeling and accountability mechanisms with the desired behaviors, URA was able to maintain improvements in taxpayer engagements, compliance rates, and public trust over time. Some of us who would keep running and dodging URA, now we know we can stand and follow what URA wants. Why? They never tried to sway from their own culture, and it's the rest of us who have to come on board.
Great story about URA. Of course, internally and even externally, they know that it has been transformed. Those of people who have actually interacted with URA over the years, they have seen the transformation, especially of recent, that has been much more friendly, much more customer service friendly, and so on. That's a good transformation. But Lillian, even as we come to a close of the episode today, I know we've shared quite a bit, what will be for you the one key takeaway you would like our organizations to remember as far as this culture transformation in organizations is concerned?
Should it be one or two?
It can be two, it can be three.
All right. So a great strategy with a misaligned culture is equal to a failed strategy.
Yeah.
As much as your strategy is great, I've told you of the wonderful designs, we've put together wonderful language. If your culture is misaligned, that means it's not working towards your strategy, and then the strategy is a failed one. A strategy is only as strong as the culture that supports it. So even the most brilliant, well-designed strategic plan can collapse because of the organizational culture.
Well. We've had such a good conversation today, Lillian, and I'm really grateful for you to come and share with us your insights. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome, Lawrence. Thank you so much.
As we conclude today's discussion, one message stands out clearly. Culture is not a soft concept. It is a strategic asset or a strategic liability for that matter. And organizations that ignore culture risk allowing informal norms, they risk misaligned incentives and unchecked behaviors to quietly undermine their performance. So the damage often begins internally through disengagement, silos, and poor decision-making, long before it even becomes visible to your clients or to your customers, or even to regulators. But when culture is intentionally designed and it's measured, it's reinforced, it becomes a powerful competitive advantage. It drives accountability and it strengthens ethical behavior. It even supports strategy execution and it builds a long-term resilience. So culture transformation is not a quick fix as we have learned today. It requires leadership ownership, it requires system alignment and sustained commitment. But organizations that treat culture as an operating system, not a communication campaign, are the ones that succeed. And at Grant Thornton, we believe that sustainable performance begins from the inside and then it goes to the outside. So thank you for joining us. If you found this discussion valuable, please subscribe and share it with as many people as you can and with your colleagues. Until next time.